This is Richard Wolff from Democracy at Work, responding to another Ask Prof. Wolff question from our Patreon community. This question comes from Cade Stevenson, and I hope I'm pronouncing the first name correctly. Cade asks about the term classism, and I presume then the adjective classist. What is it? How is it used? What do I think about its use? Well, obviously it has to do with class, and if it's used in the same way sexism and racism are used, it refers to a kind of prejudice, a kind of hostility, a kind of superiority complex in relationship to certain classes, races, sexes, and so on. But before I can respond, I have to go in briefly to the fact that we don't all agree, you, I, and the world in general, on what the term class means. And this is a very important issue. We are often confronted with speeches, statements, articles, books that talk as if we all know what the word means and we all agree on what the word means, and neither of those is true. So let's do this quickly. 5,000 years or more, at least in the Western civilization, class has been used as an important word in the language. Certainly goes back to the ancient Greeks and before. Probably the oldest, simplest concept of class comes from the verb to classify, to divide a group of people into subgroups. You know, we can classify a classroom as to the people that are tall and the people that are short. We can divide any population into those that are heavy, those that are light, those that have blue eyes, those that have brown eyes, and so on. To classify simply means to break a large group into subgroups. Okay? In the thinking about society, the communities in which we live and work, human beings have found it useful to classify, break into groups, the different people in the community they live and work in. And one of the ways to do that was to say who has a lot of wealth or property and who doesn't. The class of the rich and the class of the poor. And then, of course, if you have a little bit of subtlety, you can identify classes in the middle. The middle classes don't have as much as the rich above them, but have more than the poor below them. Classes, in terms of rich and poor, the propertied and the propertyless, is a very old way that human beings have used for a long time to understand what's going on in their society. People found it useful to notice how many people are rich relative to how many people are poor, since everyone noticed there were tensions and conflicts and envies between these classes. Equally old is another concept that's quite different. This other way of thinking about class divides people not according to what they own, the wealth, the income, the property, but rather according to the power that they wield. Are they people in the society who give others orders on how to behave, or are they the people to whom orders are given and who do what they're told? And once again, you can have some in the middle. They don't have as much power as those above them, but they have more power than those below them. Power and property are two different concepts of class. And you can, of course, talk about, criticize people according to whether they're in the rich class or the poor class or the middle class in terms of wealth, or in terms of power. Now let me put my cards on the table. I find interesting a new and different way of understanding class, and I get that from Karl Marx, because he figured it out. He didn't figure out classes in terms of wealth and poor. That was done by people long before Karl Marx existed. And the same with people who thought of class in terms of power. And remember, they're different. You can have a lot of wealth and not much power. And you can have a lot of power and not much wealth. Right? It's really important to understand that Joseph Biden doesn't have all that much wealth, but as president, he has a lot of power. And that there are very wealthy people in the world, but who don't have much power over other people for a whole host of reasons. Now, here comes Marx. Marx says there's another kind of class, that every society divides people into two groups in modern human history. One group is the one that does the work, that literally uses their brains and muscles to produce the goods and services we all live on. Food, clothing, shelter, transportation, education, medical care, all of that. That's the majority. They do the work. And then there's another group, a small group that directs the large people who do the work, tells them what to do, tells them how to do it, owns whatever they produce as fast as they produce it. In slavery, the class of workers is called slaves, and the class of those who run the game are called masters. In feudalism, those who do the work, they're called serfs, and the people who run the whole system are called lords of the land. And in our economic system, capitalism, we likewise divide people into two groups, employees and employers. The mass of us are employees. A tiny minority are employers, and they run the show. So if you're going to use the term class, please be aware you have to make clear which of these definitions you're going to use, and you have to give a reason why you're using them. You cannot pretend that we all see them in the same way. Final point. I don't use classist as a critical idea. I don't think I've done all that much when I pinpoint a person as being in this class or that class. I'm not really all that interested in where the individual fits. I'm more interested in understanding the system into which we all fit in our different roles. I'm very interested in the class structure and the class differences, but that's in order to understand and change society. I don't want to hold individuals responsible for the class into which typically they were born through no choice of their own. I hope this has been responsive. If not, let us know, and we'll try for another answer in the future. This is Richard Wolff for Democracy at Work.